Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's meet the panel.
I'm Tori.
I'm Jesi. I'm Ellie.
And I'm Josh. And today I have the panel arranged in the order of favorite to second favorite to third favorite. The closer you are to me, the higher you are on the list.
Ooh. Special.
Take that, Ari.
Larry, you're further away than I am, so... Larry's on the other side of the room.
I'm just saying, so...
But everybody's special on this panel.
Yes,
because the people that aren't special wouldn't be on the show.
Right, Larry.
But today we're going to be going over The Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. And we've gone over the murder of Roger Ackroyd, and it made for a really good discussion. So, Ari, welcome back to the 9th season. This is your 7th consecutive season on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, Ari's been working with us since season 1, where he edited. You have a discussion starter?
Do I have a discussion starter? Well,
I hope so.
Instead of a discussion starter, I'm going to throw more of a question at you guys. Like, what do you think about how this plot kind of played out? Because this plot is one of the most famous plots in, not only in Agatha Christie's history, but just in general. It's one of the most, it's probably one of the more crazy plots in any book ever. Are we allowed spoilers or no?
Yeah.
Yes. So, what do you
alert.
believe about what did you think about like the ending, like and the fact that things that led up to it, and do you think it works out? Do you think there's some plot holes? Do you think?
So I'm gonna say what I said to my dad when I finished the day I finished reading this book, and I told him, he's like, "Oh yeah, I know that movie. It's such a great movie. It's this," and I'm like. So with the chapter where it's Poirot sits back and thinks, I think that's the name of the chapter.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking with him. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Because I loved how it was set up, how I had to sit there and really think about who did it. And this crazy, wild idea went through my mind. I was like, what's really going on here? Like, all these people are in relation to this man who killed a baby. Are they all, they can't be there as a coincidence. They all have to plan, they all did it. No, that's crazy, that's impossible, that's stupid. You're dumb, Jess, you could never be a detective. And then, so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, it's probably the Count and the Countess. So that I ultimately landed on after thinking of that. And then it ended up being everybody. I was like,
I'd like to make my way.
So excited.
I want to make my way.
Yes.
I want to make my way down the panel on that note. Who do you think it was leading to the end of the piece?
Well, initially I thought it was. I don't remember. I hate to say this, but I don't remember a lot of the names of the characters. But I do know the actors who played them in the movie. That's kind of how I focus on this because I've watched the movie.
I don't know how accurate that would be because I think the most recent adaptation was.
It's still the same. It's still the same characters. Like the characters.
Not necessarily.
2014 is terrible, don't even watch it.
So I initially thought that McQueen was the one who could have been involved because it seemed like he was very involved with a lot of the other characters. But then I started to realize, well, a lot of the characters, like Jesi said, a lot of the characters seem to be involved with a lot of the characters. And I began to think, like, because at this point when I first read Murder on the Orient Express, I had already read Roger Ackroyd. So I knew that anything was possible. Mm-hmm. So initially, I then thought, I feel kind of bad for this, but I initially thought, well, what if Poirot was somehow involved? Because nothing was lining up properly. And I'm like, no, Poirot wouldn't do this. No. Poirot is a Belgian egghead detective. He wouldn't do that.
Poirot did not like Ratchet or Cassetti, though.
Yeah.
Right. There was a motive. There was a motive, but no, it wasn't going to be Poirot. So I was like, well, what? It's not going to be just one person because I know these murders. I know these mysteries by Agatha Christie. At this point, I knew Agatha Christie pretty well. I know it's not going to be one person. So after a while, I was like, it's got to be multiple people. I didn't think it was going to be everybody, but I thought it was going to be multiple people.
I would say that much as well. I'll let Ellie give her piece, and then I'll let you know who I thought it was.
So I read it originally back in 2015, so I don't remember who I thought it was. I think for a while I thought it was for his friend that's like the
doctor.
Yeah.
That's exactly who I thought it was about.
Yeah, because I just like, he just seems like...
He was like, it's the Italian.
He was
seems
very
a bit dodgy,
like,
and he's
ready.
very...
And
Very
doctors
agitated.
tend to have ways of being able to kill people using their
Exactly.
medical
Bauk
expertise.
and Dr. Constantine, but more so Bauk. But I think that a lot of one of the most important things to keep in mind with Murder on the Orient Express is that it came out right after the Lindbergh incident.
Yeah.
Charles Lindbergh, he was a well-known, successful pilot. His young son, Charles Lindbergh Jr., was kidnapped, held for ransom, and killed by the same person.
Can I just say, I actually, and like, not to interrupt you, you can go back to what you were saying, but when they were talking about the murder that happened, I was like, this sounds really familiar. What do I know? And I couldn't quite place it, so I'm glad you
Right.
said that.
Because
Like, this was
that
an
was
actual crime.
that was a big deal. This person, Hampton, was from New Jersey, and he got the electric chair. Last time the death penalty was exercised in New Jersey was 1963. It was abolished in 2006.
So
First state in the Union.
everybody got
So.
happy endings.
So, I think that with that outrage, I think that the fact that that all 12 of them murdered him,
Well, it wasn't all 12 of them.
it was everybody
Actually,
except
the
for-
only two that weren't, or the only ones that weren't involved were the doctor,
Yeah.
Bauk, the Countess, and Poirot.
Yeah.
Everybody else was involved.
Yeah, everybody else was. It was
They all
aside
stabbed
from
him
but
once, right?
Yeah.
That's.
and it was 12 of them.
Yeah. I was gonna say again. I was wrong with this, but when I initially first read the book, there were two characters, and I'm like, something doesn't seem like it would be them at all, and that would be Arbuthnot and the woman Kurgov,
Oh, the Russian
Oh,
woman.
yeah.
Yeah.
whatever her name is, the Russian, because
Yeah.
I felt like their motives weren't really.
Oh,
there.
I thought Debenham was very. I thought she was so sketchy that it wouldn't be her. Because she was probably the most calm and collected during the situation, and the least compliant to Perot's wishes.
I was actually really surprised that the only one that didn't do it was the Countess, because after my original thought, I was like, no, it can't be everybody. That's silly and impossible. How can 12 people or however many people murder one person? That's insane. But then I'm like, oh, it has to be the Countess. And then to find out that, like, especially after she's the sister, she's the aunt of the baby that died. Like, oh my God, she definitely had to do it. And she's like, no, she didn't do it. I was like, what? So
It's kind of like in And Then There Were None, where the guy was.
I was gonna say, I want to read that.
And it's very similar to that because, in a way, I'm not talking about it anymore, guys.
Are you?
Oh, we're
was there
covering our
was there a
ears too.
spoiler?
No,
No.
I censored the spoiler.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
It's okay, I get it.
Yeah, Ari and Ellie were the
yeah.
only two that read the book.
It's kind of like that, where like it's not the obvious solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. I just wanted to let you know that the killer was.
We have to get one of those like little blocks that you can put up on the screen that says spoiler.
Yeah.
And he just blocked my mouth. It's just-
Granted, I also, because I was going to make mention to, because it was very reflective of the way of thinking in Time
Aykroyd.
to Kill,
Oh, Time to Kill.
which is a Grisham novel, but I don't think anybody on here has read that.
I don't think
It is very similar to Aykroyd in many respects.
I felt that you were right in how Orient Express was much more. Roger Ackroyd, I thought, was so obvious. I thought that the moment I had a hunch and looked back on it, I felt that it couldn't be any other situation.
Mm-hmm.
But with this, I was just thinking so many different things, and I think that's what makes a good mystery. is that way of thinking. But in Ultimatum, it ended up being somebody that allegedly left the train in the middle of the night, and they'll have a lookout for him. They'll never find him, but who cares?
It would
Because
have been
you finally,
perfect if they didn't get stuck.
you finally got rid of a baby killer, which that was not gonna matter.
Yeah, it's very, I like Agatha Christie's mysteries where I like the ones more where there's a group of people and it's pretty clear that all of them have something to do with it, but it's it's better when they're all in some sort of peril because they don't know if it's gonna strike again.
Mm-hmm.
In Roger Ackroyd, I feel like Someone Killed Ackroyd. It was just trying to point out who was doing what at that point. There wasn't really any kind of peril or any kind of reason to be endangered at that point. But here, you got everyone panicking. You got everyone on a confined space train.
Yeah.
And just when stuff happens in a confined space, it makes things 10 times more.
Yeah.
In that way, it's very similar to And Then There Were None, because they're all stuck on an island.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
I don't want to spoil anything.
No,
Yeah,
we're not-
I really want to read it. So
You and Ari can say something,
Yeah,
and
you
so
guys
can the
can
viewers,
go
but I'll
over
cover
there.
my ears.
yeah, let me know. Blah, blah.
No, he knows what I'm talking about.
And anybody who's read it knows what they're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. There's plenty of books.
But this is actually, so I read one Agatha Christie book that I can't even tell you the name of it because it was so long ago. It was like so long ago.
What was the plot?
I remember there was a man in a cave. So, like, that's literally all I remember from the book. And I remember liking it. But
Yeah.
I read it in, like, middle school. So, you know, it was so long ago. So I'm kind of considering this one my first Agatha Christie book because
Yeah.
I just read it, I remember it, and I can remember more than a man in a cave.
I hope it's
So-
for your first and not your only.
And yes, that's why I really want to read it, and then there were none.
It's-
I would also suggest to viewers out there that if you like, first of all, absolutely read Murder on the Orient Express. There's also some movies out there, but if you also want to get into Agatha Christie, who, by the way, is the #1 most best-selling author
Yep.
ever.
Of all time.
Ever.
Outside of the only things that have
The
sold
Bible-
better,
the Bible.
Yeah.
and Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I
can
meant
see
not
why.
novel
She's really
author.
good.
Yeah.
But this is good.
Mm-hmm.
Ackroyd is pretty good. Then There Were None, which is also called 10 Little Indians. That was good. And I like Death in the Clouds. That's one of my favorites. And I also like the ABC Murders. So those are all...
And if you ever have the
Poirot's.
chance to go and see The Mousetrap on stage, that's incredible too.
yeah, my mom saw that. Yeah, Poirot is probably a better place to start because Poirot is very simple. The Marple ones, they're good, but they're very much like an acquired taste. And then the Tommy and Tuppence ones I'd avoid if you're really not into Agatha Christie or if you're just starting out. So I would definitely start out with Poirot.
Anything
I like
else
them.
you would want to? Anybody want to
Well,
mention?
I do have a few more points to make about this particular book, and that is that what do you think, like I had mentioned earlier, what do you think of the fact that this whole thing took place in a very confined space? Does that increase the tension for you guys?
Yeah.
And in a moving space too, because
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that there doesn't seem to be anybody that can get them out of it.
Yeah.
Does that increase the tension, or does it just make it the
I
same?
would think so. I think that having it set on a train, because I've been on trains before, and granted,
There's not a lot of room.
You know?
there's not a lot of room, but it's just that I just my experience is the idea that
You know who
it's
likes
constantly
trains?
in motion. Charlie.
Yeah!
Hi, Charlie.
Hello, Charlie. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Charlie!
No, I wouldn't say so much, what was the term you used, tension. Because I found this, like, actually kind of a relaxing read.
Well, I wasn't
But
talking
Her
about...
books are very
like,
like
It
slow.
made me more curious to know, like,
I wasn't
what was
necessarily
happening.
talking about physical tension. I was talking about psychological tension.
Like, even that, like, I didn't feel so, like, I
Like,
wasn't...
the urgency to know more about
Yeah.
what's going
Like,
on.
I wanted to know, yes, but I wouldn't say... I mean, I don't like to stop reading books in the middle of them, but if I did...
Especially mysteries.
Yeah,
Never.
especially mysteries, but if I did, it wouldn't kill me if I never picked it up again. It was... I found it actually, like, just relaxing, like, getting all the evidence piece by piece and just trying to sit there and think about it and figure it out.
It's more
And
like
it
a
was
puzzle than a
fun.
novel. in a
This is
way.
something.
Well,
I
she
thought it
wants
was
you to
fun.
try and guess who it is.
Yeah, this is something that always kept me on my toes. It was, but then again, I have a different sense of mentality. Then again, I don't know if I would say that because there are books that I've put down, but this did a good job keeping me engaged and wanting to know.
I like Poirot. I can't say his name.
Poirot.
Poirot.
Poirot. I like him. He's like
He's
just
great.
so.
He's so funny. I
He's
love
so
him.
snazzy. Like I don't know what else to
And
say.
at this
He's
point,
like,
he's almost exhausted because he really didn't want to take
Just
up the
like-
Yeah,
place.
he's not at the top of
let
his
me
game.
ask
Ellie-
you a personal question. What color is your dressing gown? I'm like, that's so personal.
I like those kind of things because when you create a casual atmosphere, it softens the tension and
Not only, I think my favorite thing that he said in this book was when Ratchet was asking him for his help, and he's like, no, and he's like, why? Here's all this
No,
money.
yes,
And he's like,
please.
no, I just don't like your face. That's why you won't solve a
That's why you
mystery.
should
You
pick it
just
up.
don't
Well, they're
like
just sitting.
it.
They're just sitting in that table, and it's like I'm sorry. He's trying to pay him to do that, and it's like no, I can't do that.
It's like, no, I don't want your money because I
part
don't like your face.
the part that got me
I
was
I was
when-
gonna say, have any of you seen the British adaptation of this with David Suchet as
Yes.
Poirot? Oh my
I love
god!
David
But the
Suchet.
funny thing is, that's not what Poirot actually looks like.
No, but that's kind of how I imagine him now. Like, I just can't
Wasn't
see
it
him
was-
as anyone but.
I actually kind of, and I know it wasn't, he wasn't even described like this, it was just in my head, it was easier to picture him a lot like Sherlock Holmes, actually.
No,
Like, that's, I know
Yeah.
they're like two totally completely characters, just in my head,
He's
he
like a
had the brown
Yeah.
coat.
he's like
and
a
the
tiny
hat
dude with
and
an
the-
egg-shaped
Yeah.
head.
Yeah,
And a
yeah.
mustache.
And a mustache. So that's why I'm like, I can't even tell you why I pictured him like Sherlock Holmes, but I
Yeah.
did. Because I was just like, detective.
yeah, it's probably it's like
Sherlock
it's like the psychiatric test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Boston.
anyone here watches Sherlock from Britain.
Ellie does.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can imagine just at the end of every chapter, it's just in my head. It goes do 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 do.
Yeah.
But the one thing that got me was where Masterman was saying that he read a book, and Poirot asked him, what book was it? That just got to me because
Yeah.
me being the avid reader that I am, I would ask that kind of question if somebody makes mention of the fact I was in this place reading, or I went to
Okay,
the
what
park
book?
one day and I was reading and then
But it's a good detective question. It's like, oh, you were reading a book? Well, what
Yeah,
were
you
you
could have
reading?
been reading the Satanic Bible for all we know.
It's like, oh,
Or
I read that book.
how
What
to
part
kill
were you
someone on a train without getting caught.
already been. Ellie, you said you.
Ari actually kind of brought it up. The kind of like description of him of being like really small. I didn't notice it the first time I read it, but this time, maybe because I've read more about him now, she just keeps mentioning how like small he is. Like she just keeps bringing it up. And I just thought that was really interesting that she's so focused on him being this really small, unimpressive man. And
That's what a lot of Agatha Christie's did. That's what a lot of Agatha Christie's.
Yeah. My favorite.
Agatha Christie's great cereal for great readers. I don't know. Anyway, Agatha. That is what a lot of
mystery of the
Agatha
murder of
Christie's protagonists are. They're
We've got
very
Detective Jesi on the
unimposing.
front.
They're very unimposing. They're very like Poirot is very small, not very well
Yeah.
built.
but that's what makes
Miss
them all more
Marple,
spectacular.
Miss Marple is old and she's old,
Yeah.
and Tommy and Tuppence are just a couple that just goes out to do stuff. So I mean, really, you have very unimposing protagonists, and you also have unimposing antagonists. You don't have anyone that's like out there. And usually, if you do have an imposing antagonist, 9 out of 10 times it's not the person who did it. It's
Yeah.
just a arrogant person. You know?
I think that she did a lot to develop the way that one could perceive a mystery and the idea that it's not supposed to be who you
Exactly.
suspect it would
If you,
be.
I'm not going to spoil it, but in Death in the Clouds, the person who wound up doing it is the pretty much the least likely person you'd expect.
Mhm.
And it's just absolutely wonderful how she twists it so that it seems like, oh, it's definitely going to be this person, and then suddenly it's like, oh no, they found they found the needle on the floor, so now we know it's not this person, and it's like, oh no, it can't be this person because she did this and this and this, and it's just.
I liked that thinking too, where it was like, oh, well, he's the only one that smokes the pipe, so the pipe cleaner on the floor means he did it. It's like, no, that means he didn't do it because he wouldn't leave a pipe cleaner behind. So, and I think that's what I liked about it too, and that's why when he did his sit back and thinking, I stopped and I thought about it too. Like, I stopped reading. I was like, okay, how did this happen? And it was fun.
I can imagine it being very difficult to publish Spark Notes for these types of books. Like with the questions at the end of every chapter.
Do they have Spark Notes for them?
I think they do. For some of the more like Orient Express, I think they do have them.
The more familiar ones.
I have to say though, like, I don't know why you wouldn't want to read this. Like I said, it was, for me, it was just fun. Like, as I was reading it, I was like, oh, more evidence, okay. I mean, I didn't actually write anything down, but I felt like I could easily have done that, where it's like, okay, so she said this,
you're
but
doing
she didn't
it
have
in case
that.
I start doing it, and then I give up.
It was like, and it was just fun to read. I enjoyed it.
So many things.
Do we have final thoughts?
Didn't you want to say something?
That was my thing.
I mean, just good book, great book.
It's great.
One of the best mysteries out there.
Already, how would we rate it? 0 to 5 stars, half stars permitted. Tori?
4.5. It's pretty good. It's not my favorite Agatha Christie, but it's definitely up there. And I think that if you want a mystery that kind of twists and changes the idea of a mystery into something grander, this is definitely a book you should check out. If you like mysteries and you're tired of the same, oh, I found this, he did it, kind of way of looking at it, this is the book for you. Someone else in the room, I'm not sure who it was, said they didn't like the most recent Murder on the Orient Express movie. I did. I actually enjoyed it quite a lot because it had an excellent cast. And there's also some older movies you could check out if you're more the visual type, if you want to kind of see the movie in action after you've read it. But yeah, definitely read this book. And Agatha Christie is probably my favorite author of all time. So you could take it from me.
So actually, I was the one that said I didn't like the 2017 version of it.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah, no, and they did have fantastic cast and the acting was fantastic. I just didn't like it because they tried to make it too much like a thriller, and there you have Poirot like chasing after a guy who tried to burn something. As like, this didn't happen. What are you doing? Why are you chasing him?
To be fair,
no.
I'll be fair with you in that there isn't many places to run on a train, so it's not like a thriller where you're running a long distance to catch someone. It was just on a train. That's why it didn't bother me so much.
Oh yeah, no, I was just like, he ran off the train and fell from this thing that's for some reason there, and I was like,
oh, that part,
an action movie.
That was a little bit too much, but you know what?
Yeah, and then
the cast overshadows it.
And
so
then instead of the knife in the shower bag, she was stabbed, and I was like, that was a little drastic, but okay. So that's why I didn't like it. Yeah. I was just like too drastic, and then when it showed like
it's just that cast. That cast was.
It was such a good cast, and that's why I really wanted to watch it, so I did. I would give this 4.5 because I loved it. It was just wonderful. And like I said a million times before, it was so much fun to read, and I cannot wait to read more of her stuff and maybe even come across the one that I read back in middle school with the man in the cave. Yeah, so I really liked it. It was a lot of fun. I can't wait to read more of her stuff and figure out the man in the cave one. Yeah, so highly recommended. Read it.
Yeah, I think it's 4.5 for me as well. It's one of my favorite books of all time. One of my top 2 of hers. So yeah, I've loved it for years, so I don't really know what else I could say.
I gave it a solid 4. I thought that the mystery part of it really kept me going the whole time. It kept me hooked. The ending, the way that the ending came to me, it was, what the heck is this? But when you think long and hard about it, you really get a sense of...
You might want to read this twice, guys, just saying. I read it twice before I fully understood it.
Yeah.
I think that in a way that you have a point, but I think that I understand the fact that this is being written and released on the heels of drastic moment in history. The people that have the fury of of their feelings regarding the Lindbergh incident will very much feel similar feelings to what happened with Daisy Armstrong.
I have like just a quick question, just to kind of first off, did she write that? Was this published immediately after that happened, or did she write it
1934.
immediately after it happened?
It was published in 1934. The Lindbergh incident happened a year or two before.
Okay, I was just kind of curious. I was like, and it just popped into my head now. I'm like, I'm wondering if maybe she was like writing this book and then just needed a bad guy and chose him, or if that inspired her to write this book.
She wrote them pretty quickly, so.
Yeah, so I was just
It could
like,
have also been just random,
Yeah.
coincidental.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but it possibly. But I think either which way that it made the ending
I was gonna say,
understandable.
we've learned anything from this book, nothing's coincidental.
Mm-hmm.
But
If you enjoy, if you want to check out more Agatha Christie stuff, we did a review of The Murder of Roger Ackroyd back in season 4, season 5. So you can check that out. That, however, is not a spoiler-free review. So if you'd like to read that book first, that'd be a good idea.
Mhm.
I also did a spoiler-free review on just Agatha Christie in general. It's one of my individual videos. So you can check that out. That's your copy of the
Yep.
book.
We both, Jesi and I, if you're interested, you can check out our copies. I got this right before we were ready to film, so I just
I was
finished
gonna say
reading
that's
this.
got the new cast on it.
Yeah.
With
Ironically,
That was the best option.
Ironically, this is probably the only Agatha Christie book I don't have. Like, I have all the other ones, but I don't have this one.
I got this for $1.80 at the Book Garden.
I got these for $1.60.
Oh yeah, I remember. I gave it to you to pick up.
Yeah.
I picked up, and then there were none. I think
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, this is my copy of them, and there were none. It's when it was 10 Little Indians.
Mm-hmm.
But
My mom has a bunch of books that are that age over there.
yeah, the Book Garden has a great selection of them in a box.
Mhm.
I just have to keep. I have to make a list of what I do have, and then when I go there, pick up what I
have
don't.
to do that.
And
It's like, okay, what do I have so I know not to buy it twice?
on her visit to New Jersey, Ellie will be going to the Book Garden.
Oh, you're gonna
Yeah.
love it. It smells so good.
Alrighty
I'm on a
then.
budget.
Be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now,
Wait! There's something going on here. There is a crime afoot, and I must solve it. Now, everyone, let Ari do his work. The crime is, in fact, one of these three people here has committed a crime of giving Literary Gladiators more than 1,000 subscribers and over. How many views do we have?
back in I don't know how many we'll have.
Did it?
However many views we have, and one of these people is extremely guilty. Let us interview all of our suspects. Did you do it?
No.
Good. Did you do it? No,
No.
because you've just been
Yeah.
here. You did it! You're the one at fault! He's the one at fault! He's going to jail, and everyone will see you on Literary
reading,
Gladiators
guys.
next time.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Can you believe he did that?